I was brought up in a certain way, listening to my gramophone record over and over again, listening to the radio. And when I was a late teenager, I realized that all I knew about music was how it sounded. I could identify pieces immediately. I knew who composed it, I maybe knew the name of the piece, but I knew nothing else about it. And then I discovered that there were so many other dimensions of music in opera. Of course, if you cut out what you see and the text and so on, you've only got a third of the opera. But there's a whole tradition of thinking that opera is primarily a musical art, and so all this other stuff is irrelevant. I think that's completely wrong. And I think it does a disservice to music to treat it just as an auditory phenomenon. Music becomes interesting for philosophy because music is taken to be something mysterious and unexplainable, so philosophy has to solve its problem. This comes out of a tradition of romanticism and absolute music in the early 19th century. And then philosophy has tried to explain it and has had enormous difficulty explaining it precisely because they stuck it in a place where it's unexplainable and then said, why can't we explain it? Contrary to most philosophers, I look for the various uses to which music is put, its different social circumstances. And in that respect, if you want to understand, for example, how music relates to the emotions, or we use music for certain highly intense emotional experiences, then we actually have to look at the particular circumstances and the way that we actually engage with it. All the time, if you ask what music is, I will turn the question and say, what are we doing when we engage music in a particular way? If you shifted your perspective away from the receptive point of view and took the performer's point of view, then you would start to see music as being in the making, it's being produced. It's like going to the back of a stage and seeing all the mechanics of how something's put together. Focusing on the institution reveals all those mechanics. It shows you all the equipment. You have all the conventions of behavior, the expectations, the habits formed. You get educated to play instruments, you get taught how to read notation, you learn to move, to dance to music and so on, and you have then all the institutions of concert halls and orchestras and the musicians and the critics, and all of that is music. It doesn't mean that Beethoven wasn't an incredible composer and produced incredible music and that the music moves you unbelievably. That's a completely different issue. Hanslick, a great music critic, was of the view that if music is there just to provide you a certain kind of enjoyment, you might as well drink a bottle of wine or have drugs. I'm rather the view, yeah, it's sort of like that. You want to engage in these beautiful self-contained experiences, and if we say, but there's no payoff or no meaning to it at the end, that reveals something about us, not about music. When the World Trade Towers came down after 9/11, there were many concerts offered in New York. I think that these situations gave people the opportunity to mourn in private, although they were in a public space. And I think what the arts allow you to do, poetry and music, is that they don't impose a message upon you. They don't tell you how to feel in that regard. They give you a certain space so that you can meet the poem or meet the music in a way halfway with what you want to find in it. This is a very particular case where you're using the music there actually to produce tears for yourself, to mourn. It gives you a moment out from this normal run of life. I heard a program the other night on the BBC of a woman who survived Auschwitz because she joined the orchestra, and she said music is one thing that you could have that nobody could take away from you, because you could sit anywhere in the camp and imagine you were listening to Dvorak cello concerto and nobody could take that memory from you. Well, that would be true of painting too, if you imagined a painting or thought about a loved one. So again, it's not really true only of music. But her point really was to say that she survived because she belonged to the orchestra. But if you look at the uses to which the orchestra was put in the camps, they used them, for example, to stop people protesting the fact that they were about to be gassed to death. It's a terrible way to use music, but we've used music to not only to mistreat people in prisons, we use music for torture, or West Berlin used to project bourgeois music over into East Berlin to upset the East Berliners. People for centuries and centuries have wanted to make music something really mysterious. It floats in the cosmos of the heavens. But of course, music is used in all kinds of ways, for political anthems, for social revolution. And we lose all that if we stick it up in some mysterious realm.